to hear from you, so get those comments in.
What is that all about? Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a warm welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott and we're here again with the Motley crew as per always. Good evening, Tom Clark, Sammy, I can see you out there, and Andrew Adams, I can see you too. Tom, thank you for everything you do for us on our Instagram page. I'm shortly going to be joined by the click of my fingers by Sir Ian Noble, but I'm not allowed to call him that tonight. Okay, I've got to call him Ian, aka Nobby FPL. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know what that means, that's his brand new Twitter handle. Twitter name, Twitter page, whatever it's called. Please give him a follow because he likes a follow and he gets lonely without your follow. So, good evening, Ian. How you doing, mate?
I'll tell you what, Nick, good evening. What an introduction that was. My life. I'm surprised people haven't switched off already. Yeah, just a bit of a joke, really, lads. Aka and Nobby FPL. I've gone back on Twitter for the first time in about 2 years since my ban, and I've got a new account. And of course, I haven't got many followers. So if you're a Palace Twitterer or X, whatever it's called these days, then do give us a follow, Nobby FPL, and I will follow, of course, all Palace accounts back. So thank you very much. Good evening.
Did you follow me back?
I followed you. I think so. I might not have done, actually.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's a shock. So, yeah, please, ladies and gentlemen, give Billy No Mates a follow because you'd like that. Okay. Welcome to Tim Richards, the fabulous Tim Richards. Good evening, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Nick. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all.
Leon saying, go, Nick, go. Is because I was dancing to Nigel's music at the big top of the show. And Paul Gear is with us, ladies and gentlemen. The fantastic and talented Paul Gear. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Nick. Yeah, good to see everyone. Glad everyone's joining us on the back of a show where we haven't just lost, so it's a nice positive one.
Absolutely right, and more importantly, we haven't lost against that lot either. So I understand you lost a few pounds on the tube yesterday, mate.
It was hot yesterday, as I say, in the ground, in the tube was unbearable. But yeah, we knew it was going to be warm, but wow, it was like height of summer yesterday. But yeah, I saw Mark Gay give his shirt at the end of the game to a young kid at the game, and he was sort of holding it, wringing it. It was just like full of sweat. So it was, it was warm.
Yeah. I've always struggled to understand it. Even Damo, I can see Mark, David, Monty, how you doing, Mick, George, James, can see you all out there, guys. Welcome to you all. We're going to be covering off both the Carabao Cup win against Norwich and yesterday's well-earned draw at Stamford Bridge. Okay, a dismal first half, of course, but not a bad second half at all. We're going to be covering that off this evening. But before we get into all of that, I thought what we would kick the show off, if you don't mind, ladies. I know everybody knows the details behind it, but I've asked Paul to collate the closure of the window. Now, for those of you who missed it the other night, on YouTube, there is our transfer deadline show where we were on, I don't know what it was, how long was it for? An hour and a half or something stupid like that? Hour and three quarters. So that's there for you to have a look at. But no sooner did we go off air, of course, and then Palace announced Nketiah, which I'm a bit sad about because I was hoping to be able to bring it to you live. We knew he'd signed, okay, but we just couldn't confirm it on there. So, Paul, over to you to kick us off with what you found and the ins and outs. And if you need any help, I've got it all written down here, so I can assist if you need me to.
Yeah, so obviously now we're in the nice position of having the windows shut, so we don't have to worry about any outgoings or people stealing our players, which is nice. I think it'd be interesting to know what people think in the chat. I think we've had a good window in the end. I think I was always confident the club would bring players in. As I said many times on my chats, various, and on this show before, I struggle to understand why we do it so late. Nketiah was obviously signed at the start of the day because he was doing videos, yet we don't register him in time to play on the Sunday. Same with Lacroix. We've talked about him for weeks. So why they do that, I would love to know. There has to be a reason. I'd love to know. But forgetting that part, let's have a look. We got 7 players in. Talking about the first team squad, we got 7 players in. Spent about 76 million compared to 4 outgoings of cost and 4 loan goings, and they're probably the first team stuff. So we're pretty sort of level in terms of in and out. So the squad's similar size. You could look at the 3 we released at the end of last season. Didn't play much anyway. So we're sort of net with the players. See how the players we've brought in now. I think they're all good signings. We obviously had to sign a goalkeeper, so use one of our loan spots for Matt Turner, who's he was always good. He was reserve at Arsenal, well thought of, and he went to Forest and started well, but he faded a bit. So he was third choice there, I think. So he was good to move. But once we sold Sam obviously decided he wanted to leave, which was I think Dean Henderson proved yesterday why Sam was going to be on the bench for a bit. He didn't want to do that, so we bought that was a no-brainer in that respect. Trevor Chalobah, a late signing. I don't know whether that was down to the fact that Riyad got injured, because we were fairly well stocked if we were bringing Lacroix in. But obviously Riyad's going to be out for 6-7 weeks by all accounts. So taking him, no one else obviously wanted him, but he's a good player. We've seen him a lot for Chelsea. I remember him scoring on his debut against us, ironically. But yeah, on a free, obviously loan fees perhaps and cost. I think he's going to be good cover. I'm not sure he's going to start. I'm not sure he's a starter, but we need the cover on the bench, which is good. So obviously the big signings, we'd already got Riyad, who's about 14 million. Kamada, who we will talk about a bit, I think he's sort of splitting opinion at the moment. But yeah, I think he's going to be a solid signing. Sarr, again, he's not really started for us much yet, so we'll give him time. But look, the last two, Lacroix and Nketiah, would also been talked about for a few weeks, pretty much coming up to the window. So we discussed them previously anyway. But nice to get them over the line. I think they're going to be. It's going to be interesting to see how he's going to use Nketiah, obviously, because he likes his one up front. So whether we'll go two up front or whether he'll rotate or swap with Mateta, who knows? So yeah, we've done well. And then looking at the outgoings, we've only really we've thrown a few out on loan. Hamada, Edouard, Ozo, Raksaki of the first team. Let's be honest, they were only going to be bench at best this season, I think. So obviously we know about Michael Elise going, Anderson. Time will tell whether that's a good move, as we've said before. If Lacroix lives up to his billing, then we probably won't miss him. And of course, Jordan and Sam, as we mentioned. So, yeah, I think it's a good window. We've brought in more money than we spent, so we've helped the PSR side of things. And yeah, I think that we've got some exciting players there, and we're probably, I'd say, a bit stronger than we were last year as a squad.
Thank you, mate. Ian, I think, to me, one of the best bits of business was the Sam Johnson deal. We bought him in on a free, and Paul just mentioned PSR. I mean, then we sold him for 10 million quid, which is obviously 100% profit. Your highlights and lowlights from the transfer window, mate?
Yeah, I think Sam Johnson, as soon as he knew he wasn't going to be first choice, he wanted away. He's found a club that it looks like he's going to be first choice. I think Sarr was talking about going to Saudi Arabia. My Wolves mate, who I talk to quite a lot, was reasonably pleased with him going there. I didn't see much of his first game against Forest on Saturday. I did see the goal he let in, which I don't think he covered himself in a lot of glory with that one. But and as Paul has already alluded to, and we'll come on to the Chelsea game later, Dean Henderson had an absolute stormer yesterday. So, he's proved really why his first choice. We've talked a lot on this show previously about there's not much between those two. So I thought that was almost inevitable that Sam Johnson went and therefore he needed to be replaced. What I like to do when there's a window like this is to talk to fans of other clubs. And I spoke to an Arsenal mate and I asked him about Nketiah. And I said, what do you think about Nketiah to Palace? And he said, you've got a really good signing. He would expect him to score at least 10 goals for us this season. That's how highly he rates him. Obviously, if he plays every game, maybe even more than that, we shall see. And then I was speaking to a couple of Chelsea fans on the train on the way back yesterday about Chalobah. And they rated him as well. And they were sorry to see him go. And they were quoting other players who, forgive me, I don't even know who they were, but were getting in the Chelsea side and were ahead of Chalobah in the pecking order there. They didn't rate as highly. So it's interesting that Chelsea are looking to get rid of these players. I think that Chalobah is in the same boat as Gallagher in terms of profit for Chelsea because he came through their youth system when they do sell him. And they need to, balance their books that way by selling their youth players off for 100% profit. So, yeah, I think it's a really good window. Matt Woosnam, is it Matt Woosnam? Is that his name? Yeah, Matt Woosnam in The Athletic. Big article today if you subscribe to The Athletic. Crystal Palace's transfer window reviewed. Will arrivals fill the Elise void? I don't think we're ever going to do that, really, in one window. Elise is a real quality top player. We'll go to the very top in world football. So we're not going to replace him in one window. But what we have done, I think we've given ourselves more depth than we had before. I think we've got more options up top. Is it Kamada? Is it Sarr? They can both come in and play on the right. Or as we saw yesterday, Sarr in a false nine down the middle for Mateta. So we've got options up top, more so maybe than we had previously, and arguably at centre-back as well. So I think overall, I would say it's about an 8 out of 10 for me. You know, a good window.
Thank you, mate. And I'm reading Tony Quinn. I'm reading your comment saying Nketiah has never scored more than 10 goals in a season. Can't see why it'd be any different for us. He seems to be a little bit negative on Nketiah, which is your right, of course, because he is a bit of an unknown quantity. I take your point, but I will counter that by saying, well, was he ever given a massive run of games? Has he ever played in the system like Glasner's? With somebody like Eze and Wharton behind him? Probably not. I would argue. Tim, I would like your thoughts. One thing I believe that he's just given us an 8 out of 10 on the transfer window. The one place I think that we have probably dropped the ball a little bit is our left back coverage for Tyrick Mitchell. Your highs and lows and your thoughts on that, please.
Especially with your Mitchell T-shirt on.
Absolutely. To be honest, I think Schlupp can play perfectly well left back. I don't think it was worth spending money on that when you have got Schlupp who can do a good job. I think it's been a really good window. I think it's interesting comments what people are saying about Nketiah. Initially I was disappointed because, like young Ian, I spoke to some Arsenal fans a few weeks ago when it was being muted on a train going up to London, and they weren't that too fussed. They said, "Oh, you're welcome to him." But I think the one thing we've got to think about is we've got to look at what we can afford to go out and buy, and I think we underestimate with players how much having a manager who believes in them or getting a run of games. Look at Mateta. Look what he's like now compared to what he was like before when he wasn't getting regular football. And also, I think you look at Nketiah's relationship with South London, his obvious relationship with Eze. I think it could be the making of him coming into the ground. I think with the other players we've got, with Wharton, with him behind as well, I think, I'm really pleased with what the business that's been done. And I think you've got to applaud Parish for not selling Gay. I think there was a lot of pressure from Newcastle. He held out. He didn't give in. So, I think, and again, they didn't play this weekend. I think that's quite a good thing because now we've got the international break where Glasner can get a good couple of weeks with them training. So, I think it's really positive.
Thank you, mate. Very good.
Nick, the other thing is about Nketiah. He also knows the tea lady, doesn't he, or something like that? I saw a video.
Yeah.
The tea lady.
She used to change his nappies, apparently.
Yeah, that's right. She said, I remember I used to change his nappies. And that could be the reason why he signed, couldn't it? What do you reckon?
I think it was only a couple of years ago from what I can gather. Listen, boys, I need to indulge myself here just for a second. Simon Philpott, I know you're out there. He actually texted me post-show last weekend that I didn't say hello to him, good evening, or even mention his comments in the chat. Yes, I know you're there. I hope you've had a nice time with Mum, blah, blah, blah. Good evening, Simon Philpott. I hope you will. Now, please shut up. Okay, right. So what we're going to do now is before we move on to the Norwich game, I'm just going to touch on other teams and other results since our last show. Oh, by the way, good news for Newcastle United out there in YouTube land. They finally did sign a Crystal Palace player today. I think it's Isabel Sibley, the Crystal Palace ladies player. Finally went on loan to Newcastle. So, they had to wait a little while, obviously, for the whole month of August to sign a Palace player. Now they've got one after the window shut. So, well done, Newcastle. I hope you enjoy. And if any of you want a laugh, okay, they're still crying about it on Twitter, X, or whatever you call it. They're still bleating on about it. And I can't help but just jump on a couple of their fans groups on Twitter, rip out the pin, lob in the grenade, and then walk away for a couple of days. And then come back and look at all the comments and come back. It's just funny as hell. So enjoy it. If you're on Twitter, get on there and have yourself a bit of a laugh. Right, results from the other teams since our last show. The under-21 starting off with Friday, the 30th of August, Premier League 2, Division 1 at the LNER Community Stadium. It was Leeds United under-21s 1, Crystal Palace under-21s 1. So score draw. The under-18s on Wednesday the 28th, English under-21 Premier League Cup at the Palace training ground. Palace trounced Birmingham City under-18s 3-0. On the Saturday, 31st of August, the under-18s at Bearwood Park Training Ground in Reading. Again, the under-18s trounced Reading 3-0. We've obviously got a decent crop of players in the background coming through, with plus all the ones that have gone out on loan that we've already alluded to. And the women, before they kick off their WSL first season up in the WSL, they had a pre-season friendly against Bristol City, and they ran out 3-1 winners in that. I think it's going to be a difficult season for them up in the WSL. I honestly do, but we wish them absolute success. Right, so we're going to do the loan watch a little bit later. Ian, would you cover off the the Norwich game, please, mate?
I will do, but before I do that, you've been talking about the under-21s and the under-18s and their results, and they're all really positive. And congratulations, of course, to Hindolo Mustafa, who plays for our under-21s. He's been called up for the Sierra Leone national team senior squad ahead of their AFCON qualifiers. So well done to Hindolo. Is that how you say his name? Hindolo Mustafa.
That's him.
There we go. So Norwich, put your hand up in the chat if you were at Selhurst last Tuesday night for a crowd of, I can't remember, it was about 12,500, back like the old days, Paul, isn't it? You know, in the championship, crowd of 12,500 at Selhurst. The upper and the Arthur Waite to Palace fans was closed. Norwich had a nice allocation in the usual space for away fans. One thing, interesting fact I read in the programme is the only interesting fact in the programme, because it was all about Norwich City. There wasn't anything at all about Palace in the programme. £1.50. I really nearly asked for my money back. Is that there is no VAR in the League Cup until the semi-finals, the two-legged semi-final stage, and they're assuming, of course, that the semi-finalists will be Premier League clubs, because if they're not, they might have a problem with that. But I thought that was fairer, actually, because what I don't like, apart from the fact I don't like VAR much, is I don't like in cup competitions where you've got VAR in one game and not in another game in the same round. It seems ridiculous. Anyway, no VAR to the semi-finals. Now, the interesting thing about the game, before we get into the game very quickly, is the lineup. You know, I think he surprised everyone, Oliver Glasner, with going so strong. But before we talk about the lineup, we had a minute's applause for Sven-Goran Eriksson in the ground, which was observed immaculately. And there you can see the players in the centre circle doing that. But so he went really strong. Have we got a lineup there, Nige? We've rehearsed that. Yeah, there we go. So there's the lineup for the cup match. You know, you'd think it was a Premier League game. Looking at that, you know, that's almost as strong as it gets. Bit surprised that Richards was left out for Klein, but nevertheless, we needed him early on, as we'll come to in a sec. But we opened strongly, of course. We were 1-0 up after 2 minutes with Kamada getting his first competitive goal for the club, I think. I'm right in saying that. And Mateta assist straight down the middle. We're 1-0 up after 2 minutes. And then shortly after that, Norwich had a chance. We can come off that, Nige, if you like. There's the Kamada in full flight. Norwich had a chance sort of fairly soon after that. I think it's in about 6 or 7 minutes. They didn't sit back. They came at us. They were determined to give it a go. And Chadi Riyad got injured in defending a Norwich attack, and he went off for Richards. I think it was about minute 7, and it was quite a good save, I think, from Hendo at the time. I think he had to get down and save the ball there. And then one of their players got off injured early on as well. So you know, there was quite a lot going on in the first 15 minutes or so. SA had a goal offside. It looked a good goal for me. Gahey ball right over the top. The lino flags, of course, no VAR. You can't check it. Was it on? Was it off? It looked off. But, you know, the ball was in the air a long time, so it might have been closer than we think, but it wasn't given. I thought Hughes was very involved. I thought Hughes, we missed him against West Ham. If you look back on the West Ham game now, I think one of the reasons we lost the ball so much in the midfield in that game was because Hughes wasn't playing. But he was back for Norwich, and I thought it was noticeable that he was. But the highlight of the game, really, for me and for everyone, was on the 57th minute when I think it was Kamada put the ball in and Mateta's overhead kick for 2-0 or 57 minutes. What an absolute peach of a goal. A goal, pick that out. It was unbelievable. Really was. It was worth the entrance money for sure. And then before we went 3-0 up, Hendo had a double save to make. It could have been very different had they got back in it. at that stage to make it 2-1, but he made a really good double save to I suppose just seal the fact that he's the first choice goalkeeper at Crystal Palace now. And then we went 3-0 up on 68 minutes. It was a textbook goal. Eze down the left, byline pulls it back. Mateta's on a penalty spot, slots it home. 3-0 and game over, really. Made a few substitutions. Sarr comes on the pitch. Eze played Sarr in. He hit it over the bar before the fourth goal to put the icing on the cake by Eze. 84th minute, he runs it from this sort of left-hand side of midfield into the box. The assist was from Wharton. We're 4-0 and the game is well and truly over. And it was quite funny in the second half because Norwich fans, they were in great voice. They did really well. Great to see so many supporting their club. When they've got the ball, they're singing, "We've got the ball, we've got the ball." And then when they lost it, they said, "We've lost the ball." And then Palace fans started joining in. So it was had a good atmosphere at the end. And we ran out really comfortable winners. And they're the stats. And surprisingly, we had less possession than them. So, but there we go. It was a good game of football. It was well worth going down there for. QPR away in the next round. We'll take that all day. That's a nice local London derby away from home, which will be hopefully a sellout at Loftus Road because it's not a very big ground. Hopefully Palace will take their full allocation and it'll be a really good night. And we're not sure when that game's going to be played yet, Paul, unless you know differently to me.
I've got 17th of September.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I think they've still got to select the TV games, haven't they? I'm not sure. But
Well, it's spread over 2 weeks this round, isn't it? Because the European teams are in, and I think the second week is a European week. So they have to play in the first week. So that will free up TV slots and potential fixtures the week after. So, yeah, when they'll sort that out, who knows? Because it's only a few weeks away, but they'll leave it as late as possible, no doubt, now in the Football League.
Yes. They will. So yeah. So it's the outcome was what we wanted. I thought that the guys played really, really well. We made some substitutions. You just hope in a game like that the key players like Eze, Gay don't get injured. They didn't. We did lose Riyadh, and as you said earlier on, Paul, did we bring Chalobah in because of that? Maybe, but he's the kind of player that I think. Gladstone's got confidence in to play in the first team, Riyadh. So he's going to, when he's fit, he's going to be fighting for that place back, and that's all good.
Yeah. Just on that one, actually, all the games in the Carling Cup are on Carabao Cup are on TV, so it doesn't actually matter about the TV slots. But no, you're right. As I say, I think he will play the big players again. One of the most heartening statements of the other night was in his after-match press conference. Something we haven't heard from a Palace manager for a long time. Was he said, I don't see any reason not to go strong in the cup, so it doesn't make any sense not to be in a cup and try and win it. So, yeah, it's great to hear that. So, yeah, he's going to give it a proper go, which is nice. But yeah, it was a great night in terms of it was the perfect confidence boost. You got a clean sheet, you played well, you got your first win on the table, all your front three scored. So yeah, that's really what you want from a first round of a cup match.
Thank you, boys. Right, it's just looking at the chat, Tim. I'm going to come to you in a second. In the chat, John Knox said, "I'll actually ask the question: do we know any details on the QPR data? Hopefully, we've answered that for you." Also, Mark Callahan mentioned a few minutes ago. I'm sorry to hark back to it, boys, but I just want to jump. For those that didn't watch the transfer deadline show, if you want to laugh at Newcastle United, let me just show you something now. I'm about to bring up an image on screen now, okay? And it's about in the Newcastle United club shop pre the shutdown of the transfer window. I'm only showing this again because you might not have seen it the other night. They were actually selling Mark Geehee shirts in their club shop. There it is. There's an image of it. That is from their club shop or from their website. Okay, so how deluded are those people? They are just bizarre. Sorry to harp on about it, but I personally found it amusing. Tim,
I want to meet a Newcastle fan that bought one. And there must be one out there, surely. If they put on sale, someone must have bought one, surely.
I mean, they're just deluded. Tim, anything you want to add from the because you watched the Norwich game? Anything you need to add? I'm a bit concerned about Riyadh obviously getting injured.
Yeah, I mean that's disappointing. But we've got cover. I think Richards again played well. Again, I would talk about yesterday's game a bit later, but I've got every confidence in him playing. I was a bit concerned with the first half, especially towards the end. I thought we were very lucky to be not going in at least level. But no, it was like I said, 4-0. Take that all day. Very pleased.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, I do want to touch on a slightly different subject before we go on to the Chelsea game, boys. Okay, again, this is not, you're not aware that I'm going to be asking you about this, but bit of strange news pre or post the Chelsea game with reference to Rob Holding. You notice he was excluded from the matchday squad completely. And I think it was post-match, Glasner's actually now reported that he's actually training on his own. Any news, anything you can tell me about that? Tim, you're close to the chairman. I think you share Parish's bed. Anything you can tell me?
Yeah, I know exactly what it's about, but I'm not allowed to say. No, I mean, I've seen so many rumours and so many, it's because of this or because of that. I might find out tomorrow. You never know. But no, who knows? I'm not prepared to make any comment on it.
Very unusual, boys, don't you think, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard about it at other clubs, haven't we? You know, they were saying about Raheem Sterling training on his own at Chelsea and Gallagher as well. They're all training on their own there, probably after the squad. But yeah, he must have said something or done something to upset Glasner, or I don't know really. I mean, I've never really rated the player anyway. I'm not sure why we even bought him. He especially in a position where we've actually got a lot of cover now. I would have thought we could let him go. Maybe he wanted to go. Maybe this was it. Maybe he wants away, and he says he doesn't want to play for Crystal Palace anymore. And I think one of the things that Oliver Glasner has said in his interviews during this transfer window is that he wants players to play that want to be here, and he praised Mark Gahey and Eberechi Eze for not sort of wanting away. When the bigger clubs could have potentially been in for him, and in Gahey's case, they were in for him in Newcastle. So he wants people that want to be here, and if Rob Holding wanted away, then maybe that's one of the reasons why he doesn't want him training anywhere near the first team squad. And
may I also just congratulate you on your perfect pronunciation of Eze's first name. Do you know what? I actually find it quite sexy the way you say it. Say it again.
Don't say it.
He said Eberechi Eze. I think it's a beautiful way you pronounce it.
On the tube coming back yesterday, talking about pronunciation of players' names, this guy was talking to me about a Palace fan. He was talking to me about centre backs. He said, that French guy we got. I said, what, Lacroix? He goes, that's good pronunciation. I said, well, yeah, I do a podcast, and I've got to be able to pronounce it.
I can't even pronounce your name correctly. Eberechi Eze in sexy voice that you do. Paul.
I think there's something a bit more sinister with Rob Holding. I think we've had players like Sam, Ahmed. They both said they want to leave, and Glasner's come out and said that. So if Holding want to leave, I'm sure he'd have come out and said that. But he has said that they have spoken, and what he knows. Holding knows Glasner's problem with him, and basically, they're going to keep it in house. So it does sound like something strange, but I don't know why we signed him in the first place, and I've never rated him as a player anyway. So it's no big loss to the squad.
Well, I do know there's a particular football club up in the North East that is desperate for a centre half, or maybe we could just ship him up there on loan. I don't know. Anyway, stop having a dig at Newcastle. Right, loan watch, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to move on to that very briefly.
This will be good. This will be good.
Loan watch. Here we go then. Owen Goodman played the full 90 minutes and kept their clean sheet for AFC Wimbledon, who won 1-0 at home to Fleetwood Town. Joe Whitworth played the full 90 minutes for Exeter City, who won 2-0 at Bolton, but was booked in the 69th minute. You go, Joe. I met him, by the way. I went to the DSA night. Bruce, I know you're watching, mate. I hope you're feeling better. I was lucky enough to be invited along to the DSA night at Selhurst during the close season, and I met Joe that night. And what a nice, grounded and rounded young man he is. He's a super chap. Teo Adramola was not in the matchday squad for Stockport, who drew 1-1 with Mansfield. Danny Emery started, but only played 83 minutes. Played for the 83 minutes for Bromley, who lost 2-1 at home against Crewe. David Ozo played the full 90 minutes for Derby County and scored in the 89th minute in the 3-0 win against Bristol City. Malcolm Ebiobi, how do I pronounce that, Ian, please?
Just before you move on from David Ozo, that goal, if you haven't seen the goal, guys, I'm talking to people watching the show, Nick. I know you've watched it. But if you haven't seen that David Ozo goal, check it out online. Absolutely brilliant. He starts the move in his own half, puts the ball through, the guy crosses it, and then he runs half the length of the pitch to get on the end of a rebound and knock it in from the edge of the box. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. and they love him up there already. And if he plays like that all season, he's going to come back ready to compete for a place in the Premier League next season.
I didn't realise it, Ian, what a unit he was. He's a big lump, isn't he? Okay, and as you say, he sprinted half the length of the pitch to get on the end of that. Very good. Malcolm Ebiobi stayed on from the Oxford United bench for the entire match in their 3-1 home win against Preston North End. Ola Adabomi for 73 minutes for Belgium side SK Bevern, who drew with Liège. Jez Raksaki played the first 65 minutes for Sheffield United, who won 1-0 at home to Watford. And I'm hearing some of the home fans are not overly impressed with what they've seen so far. Watch this space. Luke Plange came on in the 82nd minute for Helsinki, who won 3-0 away at a club that I have no idea what that says. It's just a series of letters. Killian Phillips played 60 minutes for St Mirren, who drew 2-2 at Dundee. And Jack Wills-Morrison came on at half-time for Wilston, who drew 1-1 at Solihull Moors. So thank you for that information, Nigel Croucher, you superstar. Ian, fancy covering off let's go to the big game of the weekend, obviously at Stamford Bridge, where we finally ended this hoodoo that Chelsea had over us. Ian Noble, you have
we're going to have to extend the length of this show with the loan watch because it takes too long now. There's so many players out.
You asked for it.
I know, but there's so many players out on loan. Maybe we need to be selective next time. Maybe you need to tell us in the chat which players you want to cover. Otherwise, we talk about these irrelevant people out in Belgium or somewhere in the north of Scotland. They played 3 minutes and all this. Anyway, yesterday, really good day at the Bridge. It's been a hard place to get to. Interesting, Oliver Glasner in the post-match press conference, they said to him, of course, you haven't beaten Chelsea in 14 attempts or 13 attempts. He said, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'm glad you didn't tell me before the game." He really didn't know that. Maybe he didn't. Who knows? But anyway, listen, it was good to be at the Bridge yesterday. I missed the game last season there, and the away support was in great voice, great spirits, and I think we were lifted by the League Cup win in the week. First of all, no surprises really with the team sheet, I don't think. Let's have a quick look at that. Here's how we lined up. Henderson in goal, of course. Wing-backs Munoz and Mitchell. Richards, Gahey and Klein in the side in the three across the back. It was Wharton in the middle, of course, and Hughes got the nod to start with him back in the starting lineup after missing out against West Ham. Kamada gets his... was it his first start in the Premier League? Have I got that right? Maybe not.
He started at Brentford.
Yeah, forgive me, I wasn't there either. Eze and Mateta is the lineup, and the bench not too strong. We've got 4 youngsters on the bench, but a good experience for them. But nevertheless, not much of a bench at all. Chelsea probably started brighter. I think the first half belonged to them. The second half belonged to us, arguably, not just because of when the goals were scored, but Palmer and Madueke both went close for Chelsea. Just wide of that far post on a couple of occasions early on. In between that time, Wharton had a decent shot on target. I just think that Adam Wharton is getting better and better the way he grows into games. But this is relatively early in the game. He picks the ball up on the edge of the box, about 20 yards out, and forces Sanchez into a save. Hughes was booked early on. I mentioned that it's significant, I think. He was booked in the 13th minute for pulling a player back. And, I just think that Hughes has always got a booking in him, but I just like him to be a bit more careful early on. You don't need to get booked so early in a game. Obviously, if you're going to stop an absolute goal-scoring chance or there's one player behind, then fine. And it was interesting that he, when Chelsea did break for their goal, Gahey had a run up the field. Really, this is how their goal came about. Mark Gahey, he doesn't run with the ball up the pitch that often, but he did, and he kept going, didn't he? He made a pass that was intercepted, and he kept going into their box, and there was no way he was going to get back. They intercepted it, hit us quickly on the breakdown there, right? And Hughes, you could see him go to grab, I think it was Madueke, you could see him go to grab him, and then he sort of stopped because he realised that if he had, he was off. Simple as that. And that was on 25 minutes, and that would have been an absolute disaster. But Palmer was involved, of course. The cross came in for Jackson at the far post. It was 4 against 2 at that point. That's how quickly they broke, and we were just all over the place at the back and really didn't have any chance at all in defending that ball into the box. And we were 1-0 down, sort of predictably, really. And probably with the balance of the game at that time, that was fair enough, in terms of the chances that Chelsea had created. Thoughts, Paul Gear?
Yeah, no, they had the better chances. We were fairly controlled with the ball, but we just wouldn't. I found in the first half we were very passive. I don't like slow backwards football. I must admit, we were in the habit yesterday when we did get the ball on the halfway line going forward. The first reaction was to turn around, go back, start again. And I've never liked that. You need to hit teams on the counter attack and not give them times to get back and stuff like that. But I think first half we were a bit too maybe respectful, perhaps. But whenever we got the ball out there, they turned around and went back again, and it's not ideal. But yeah, Chelsea made some good chances. But and to be fair, Henderson obviously made a couple of really good saves. He made one fantastic save that he tipped onto the bar from a point blank effort, which was reminiscent of a save I think Nigel Martin made at Everton a few years ago, which is probably the best save I think I've ever seen live. But it was brilliant. So I think going in 1-0, there were some gilt-edged chances for Chelsea, but I think it was probably just about fair 1-0 at half time. But there was a few bookings going about early on, and yeah, I don't think anyone can complain about Hughes' first booking. So yeah, no, we went in. Glad it was 1-0, but yeah. We needed to do something in the second half, really. There was a lot of talk whether Hughes should have come back out in the second half, which obviously.
Well, that's right. We talked about that at half time. What about you? What do you think, Tim? Do you think Hughes should have gone off at half time?
Yeah, I think as good as Hughes was against Norwich, he was poor yesterday. Whether that's his level's been found out, I don't know. But yeah, especially at Chelsea, where you're going to get run around, you can't afford to go down to 10 men. And Glasner actually said, he said afterwards, and he said if he had have got that second yellow card for that second foul in the second half, he would have taken responsibility for that, because his backroom staff said, "Look, should we bring Hughes off?" And he said, "No. Hughes is he's very good. He's very experienced. He won't make another foul." And then within 2 minutes, whatever it was, he did exactly that, which is why he was so quickly substituted after that.
Yeah, come on then, Nick.
Just a couple of things from the chat. First of all, there's a geezer out there. There's a bloke that we know very well on this show called John Ellicott. Hello, mate. Hope you're well, buddy. And he said, I think the Chelsea goal showed why we brought in Lacroix from Wolfsburg. Max says he's rapid as a centre-back, and he probably would have given us half a chance for their goal. That's the first one. There's another bloke out there, boys, that you know quite well. Some geezer called Azachana. Any idea? Have we ever met Azza? It's a private joke, okay. And he said, Decore was a game changer, and Oliver Glasner needs to start him over Hughesy next game. I don't know what you think, boys.
Well, no, I agree. Azza, I agree with you, mate. I know I did big up Hughesy on the Norwich game, because rightly so. But I think, maybe it's not quite as extreme as you're saying, Tim. But yeah, he was fouling. He was getting caught out a lot in the first half. He made that error. He got booked early on. He nearly fouled when they were attacking for the second goal. I think he probably had one or two others that were niggles that, he probably weren't bookings, but they were bad fouls he gave away. And yet, in the start of the second half, when he did pull back Palmer on the edge of the box, which, you've already alluded to, I've got my heart in my mouth, and it's right at the other end. Fortunately, we can't see it that well from the away end. But when I've watched it back, my goodness me, he was a lucky boy to stay on the pitch. I don't know what the referee was thinking, not booking him. I think it was a booking all day long. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, at the time, I thought it was a booking, and Hughes, he's a good player. He's just not very quick, and Chelsea have got a lot of pace, so that's why he was caught out a lot. I must admit, I was surprised to see him come back out, because he was getting so skinned and having so many issues in the first half. It was always going to happen, and the fact it happened so quickly. I always whenever things like that happen, I always turn it around, and if that had been on a Chelsea player or a Palace player, I would have been screaming for a second yellow. So we got away with one there, and obviously Glasner took him off straight away because he knew what was coming, and you get the boos from the crowd because they know it's a bit cheeky, to be honest. We got away with one there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doucouré coming on. I think Doucouré is obviously he's a great player. He's shown that for us in the past. I think the only reason he hasn't started is because of his long-term being injury out. I think we've got to get him back up to speed and do that. So once he's getting back to his fitness, which he did look yesterday really well, it would be good to get him back as a starting player. But it's obviously when he's ready to go.
Sure. Do you think we deserve that bit of good fortune, Tim? You know, if we had a bit of bad luck earlier this season, did it balance itself out? Was that the bit of good luck that balanced out the goal in the opening game that wasn't given?
Oh, 100%. We are due a bit of good luck. Even a West Ham fan I work with at work today said, yeah, you deserve that bit of luck. But what's really heartening, though, is the way we're playing, especially at the back. I sort of managed to stay up to watch Match of the Day 2 yesterday, and they were talking about the Palace game. And the loving, if you like, for Palace was amazing, especially from Match of the Day. The way with a makeshift defence, we defended, covered, filled all the holes, moved as a team, especially when Doucouré came on. Him and Wharton working closely together, no distance between them. And considering how little those two have played together, how much Doucouré is coming back from injury, the new players coming in, I'm really positive for the rest of the season now.
Sure. It'd be good to it'd be really good to get Doucouré back in the side. Lindsay, good to see you with us tonight. About time you come back on the show very, very soon. I know you promised to do so. Lindsay says Doucouré has been eased back into the squad. He was struggling, but he looked back to his fitness levels on Sunday. I can't see Glasgow not starting him next game, and I think I would agree with you on that one. In my notes here, I said Doucouré has made the difference in the side. I think he did make the difference, and he did, for me, look back to his best. And I thought the way he linked up with Adam Wharton in the middle of the park was really excellent. And there are several examples of where, one of them won the ball and the other one then picked the ball up and made the pass, or vice versa. So they interchanged really, really well together. Nick, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just pleased with Tim mentioning Match of the Day, the highlights and the commentary about the Palace played on Saturday. Tim, you're right to highlight it. And I thought the one that was particularly strange was Frank Lampard. His analysis on the Palace game was balanced and absolutely spot on. Very unusual for a biased Chelsea, obviously a Chelsea fan. So you're right to point that out, mate.
I thought Frank Lampard came over really well as well on Match of the Day too. I watched it back today, and he's a pretty good pundit, actually. I thought, I didn't realise it was as good as he was.
He's manager, that's for sure.
We can disagree on that one, but there we are. So we get the goal. We get the goal back. Wharton was involved. He picks the ball up. There was a cross into the box. Chelsea struggled to get it clear. They sort of get it clear of the penalty area, but Wharton picks it up. He goes past a player. He knocks the ball to Doucouré. There was a shot that's blocked, and it ricochets, falls nicely to Eberechi Eza. Just said it for you again then, Nick. Eberechi Eza on the edge of the box. There he is, stroking the ball home with his right foot. Just the right amount of bend on it. Just the right amount of power to beat the goalkeeper through a melee of players there to make it 1-1 and cue Bedlam in the away end at the bridge. It was great, wasn't it, Paul?
I was, yeah. As I say, it's always great when you score an away game anyway, but when you score a goal like that, the place went nuts. It was great. Yeah, really nice. Really good fun.
Really was. And, there were other chances as well in that second half. The most notable probably was when Munoz was put clear on the right-hand side. He did ever so well to keep the ball in play to begin with. And he looked up really intelligently and picks out Kamada on the edge of the box, who, from a very similar position, whereas they scored his goal, strikes it almost as sweetly. But Sanchez gets a glove to it just about and puts it over the bar, but only just. It was so close to being 2-1. It really, really was. I thought that Chelsea then sort of came back into it a little bit. Certainly when they put up 8 minutes of stoppage time, I think, before kickoff, we would have taken the point. They didn't want the point. They wanted to win the game. Did they show the intent for that in the added time? Possibly they did. Jackson hit the side netting. And then when Schlupp came on, Schlupp, is he the answer even off the bench? I'm not really sure anymore. He sort of fell over and lost possession. One of their players just lumps it forward. Jackson is on his heels, and he's got Kleiny with him, and he gets away. And Hendo, what a save at the end, you know, 93, 94 minutes, and he celebrated that like he would celebrate a goal. Absolutely, he really did, Nick, didn't he? You know, it was fantastic to see. Yeah, and then the game sort of finished with us having a corner, and there was some confusion at the end of the game. No one was quite sure what had been given. At one point, I thought the referee had his hand to his ear as he consulted VAR. You know, has there been something in the box, some infringement we haven't seen? I think Gahey was pulled over, but it was sort of just a bit of pushing and shoving. It was probably no more than what we saw the incident given at Brentford. Sorry to hark back to that one when the goal was disallowed, but it was no more than that. But you think, is something going to be given here? No. Munoz flicked it on. Mitchell almost got a shot away. It wasn't quite to be. Final whistle. And I suppose really breathing a sigh of relief that we haven't lost the game because, as I said earlier, we would have all taken that before kickoff, albeit it would have been really nice to have won it. But we didn't. We drew. And there we go with the possession. They clearly bossed the possession, Chelsea. In terms of shots, they had more than us, more on target. Corners fairly equal. And free kicks, they had more of them. And offsides, not many offsides. No, ridiculous number. Only one in the whole game. Who knew that? There we go. So anything else any of you guys want to say about that game yesterday? Or do we just move on?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about some of the players basically that played. I mean, it's been quite interesting to read online and hear people and speak about Kamada. I mean, he seems to be splitting the view at the moment. Now, I've said on here before, I've watched him a couple of times in earlier games. And I think he's quite an intelligent footballer. And I don't like saying things like that because generally intelligent footballers are called that because they're lacking somewhere else. They're not busting guts to do things. And you think, well, you've got to say something nice about him. But I think I've seen he makes a lot of runs. And the goal against Norwich the other day was just that. I said in the show after Brentford, he was making a lot of runs through defenders. He just needs someone to play him through. And the first goal against Norwich was exactly that. He made a break through it and we played him through at the right time. And he did well. And there was a lot of stuff like that yesterday. And as you say, he did, when we were attacking the ball that was pulled back to him to have a shot. I think there's a player in there, and I think I think he's obviously got to get up to the speed of the Premier League. There's no doubt about that because he's played in Italy and Germany, so there's that. But I think he's one of these players that if we can get him on the same wavelength as certainly Doucouré and Walton, he can make these runs and play him through. And I think he will be an asset. I must admit. I think there could be some good stuff to come from him.
Yeah, and I think people are agreeing with you. You know, George says he's growing into the club. Leon says Kamada needs time. He needs confidence, as Phillips von David. So, you know, Kamada will come good. Paul Holden. So Kamada will be trying to think up. Hang on, I can't read what I'm reading here. Kamada will be a good player. Yeah, so I can't see that. I don't know why I can't see. It's the light on my screen. It's ridiculous. Sorry, John, not to read your quote. Here, I can see it now. Kamada will be a good player, but he just needs to get used to the Premier League and given time to gel. Yeah,
and I absolutely agree with John. Now, as we're talking about John Ellicott, ladies and gentlemen, okay, like I say, he's been a friend of the show for more years than I care to remember. And you'll be aware a couple of years ago, sadly, he lost little Charlie, and we're all aware of that. Now, this, for the Leicester game, Nigel, have you got that? Bring it up for me now, please. You'll be aware for the Leicester City home game, they are carrying out another bucket collection at Selhurst Park for Stop the Cancer Destroying Young Lives and join our fight, Young Lives versus Cancer. So that you'll find that in and around Selhurst Park pre-game on the Leicester game, which I think, what date was that, boys? Is that September the 14th? September the 14th. Last time I spoke to John, and John, I've been WhatsApping you. Return my bloody WhatsApp message, you should say, Reg. Okay. Last time John and I spoke to each other, they were looking for a bucket collectors. Okay. So if anybody's interested in helping John in and around Selhurst Park on that game, on the Leicester game, please get in touch with either me or John. You can get hold of John on all the socials. He's on Twitter, X, Facebook, and everything else. Or just give me a shout here at the Red and Blue Review, and he's there. You go. Is his answer? He's answered me straight away. You answered the bloody screen quick enough. How about answering your damn WhatsApp messages? So yeah,
Take no notice of him, John. He's having a bad day.
So they still need bucket collectors. So if anybody fancies helping out on the day, that would be great. Also, as both Bruce and Lindsay are out in the chat this evening, the DSA, the Disabled Supporters Association, do some great work in and around the club, and they are looking for members. Please, if you fancy joining it, you don't have to have a disabled member of your family. You could be perfectly able-bodied and be a member. Please get in touch with Bruce Muirhead, who's the chairman, and the lovely Lindsay, who's a massive friend of our show. Okay, and she will be coming back on. Okay, John's trying to make the excuse that he's not getting my messages. That's convenient, isn't it? I wonder why. And at the bottom of the screen, you will see the contact details for the DSA. We would love and be more than proud for any of you to join. Also, while we're doing a little bit of housekeeping, people are asking about Holyoke, okay? Lord Holyoke, the recovering patient. So I spoke to Jill today, and I speak to Jill every day, as I'm sure you all are aware. Jill Holyoke at the moment is in absolute top banging form. He spent the weekend down at the coast. He's fit. He sounds healthy. He's obviously still got some a few aches and pains going on, which he will have. It's a severe operation, but he nearly jumped on this evening. I said, "Do you want me to send you the link?" He said, "No, do you know what? I'm going to have an early night." But he's out and about and he's fighting fit, and he sends you all his love. So all good stuff on the Holyoke front. In fact, I'll make sure he gets on the show next week and he can bore you with it like he's been boring me with it for the last 6 weeks. So no, it's good. Thank you for that roundup on the Chelsea game, boys. I really appreciate that. Nigel, could we have the upcoming fixtures, please? Because obviously we're going to be we got the international break, and there is the Leicester game, and I know Lindsay's already offered to help John on the day, so that's on Saturday the 14th of September at a 3 o'clock kickoff. On the 17th, we think it's the 17th. We're away at QPR. I will be there on that game, so come up and say hello to us. I'm sure Ian and Paul will be there. Tim, have you ponced the ticket yet?
I couldn't possibly comment.
Then we're away at Goodison Park to the newly relegated Everton.
You missed out Man United, mate.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Man United. Of course, Man United at home. Yeah, again, there's 3 points there and another 3 points at Goodison Park for the newly relegated Everton Football Club. A bit of a tougher game on the 5th of October, home to Liverpool, and then away at Forest. So your predictions in the chat there. What we got there? 2, 4, 5 league games there. How many points? Oh, Daniel's already well ahead of me. He's actually said 13 points from the next 6 games. Daniel, don't forget, one of those is a Carling Cup game, mate. Okay, just Joe Holyoke can come on our next game and analyse Jordan Ayew's performance as he returns to Selhurst Park. Very good, Paul. Very good. Very good. I love it.
I'm just a bit disappointed that Edouard's only a loan because it means he can't play against us. I would have quite liked him to have played against us. So.
Yeah, cool.
I've seen a couple of comments on this. I certainly will be having £10 on Jordan to score that day. It's just written in the stars, isn't it? Let's be honest. But we've got to be looking to beat Leicester, and you've got to be looking to beat Everton, haven't you? And even the way United are playing, we shouldn't be losing to that. So I think if we get 7 out of the next 9, that would be a good return. But yeah, as I say, hopefully we'll have a fit squad, and there's points to be had, isn't there?
Well, look at the bright side. Even if Ayew does score, he won't celebrate, will he? Because he doesn't smile at the best of times. So
he'll probably go mad.
Yeah, he probably got a shirt off and laughing at the home. So yeah. John's saying a possible 10 points. John Knox is saying 2-1 Palace. Nick, my granddaughter is 3 years clear. I've got to touch on that. Okay, before any of your time, before you join the show, gentlemen, okay, there's a gentleman in the chat right now called John Lines, okay? John, get in touch, mate, will you? Okay, I'm not on Facebook anymore, but you still got my mobile number. He joined the show and his granddaughter was severely ill. I mean, dangerously ill. And he's just told us in the chat, Nick, my granddaughter is 3 years clear now and she was 8 today.
Lovely.
Mate, sending you lots of love. And John is a former sponsor of the show. And we are still looking for a sponsor for this year's show. Anybody out there is interested or know anybody that is, please get in touch. One of you had your hands up. Who was
I
it?
did, yeah. Just a quick word about the Liverpool fixture. That now is definitely lunchtime on the Saturday. There was a question mark over that about Liverpool's commitment and involvement in the Champions League. But they are not going to be away on the Wednesday, which means that we can play at lunchtime. As if they had been away on the Wednesday, we would have been playing at 8 o'clock on Saturday night, which isn't ideal. So there we are. But yeah, it's sold out, that one already, Liverpool at home. So Alice told us from the box office yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, sold out already. There we go. We need a bigger stadium. We should build a bigger stand, shouldn't we?
Do
Or something.
you think we should? Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll take a little while, though, won't it?
It'll never happen. It'll never happen.
Talking of which, guys, I was really impressed by Greg's analysis of the stand in the last show. If you haven't heard that from the I thought it was all supposed to be about the transfer window, but you started talking about other windows, construction industry and all that kind of stuff with the new stand. And Greg, really, lovely summary of what's going on at the moment. So well done, Greg.
Greg Ellis is our construction expert. Bear in mind, he is partially responsible for the building of number one called Wimbledon. So yeah, he's very, very qualified to talk on that subject, and which he did, as you said, very well during the transfer deadline show. It's back on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. All our shows are on YouTube. Nip back and have a look at it. Tim, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the Fans Advisory Board fan survey that is available on the FAB page on the club site. I'm not too sure. I'll find out tomorrow if or how many we've had done, but as many as we can possibly get. We need as much information that we could take back to the club to get things changed and to get things done. So if you know other Palace fans that haven't done it yet, give them a shout. Please do it. As I said, the more info we have, the better we can do.
Thank you, mate. And well said. And obviously we got we're doing. Oh, of course, we've got the big announcement that we put out on the transfer deadline show. In case you didn't hear it, okay, those of you out in YouTube land, obviously we have a transfer deadline show for you to go back on. But also this week, because we've got no game coming up, we have a special for you, and it's going to be live and exclusive to the Red and Blue Review. We are delighted, I say delighted, to welcome Kieran Maguire and Kevin Day from the Price of Football podcast are coming onto the show, and we're going to be talking about a whole range of subjects, talking about the cost of the new stand, Kevin Day's charity walk that he's doing to every London Premier League stadium. At the moment, he's in the middle of it as we speak. How they got together, bearing in mind one's a Brighton fan, one's a Palace fan, how they were clumped together, and also the success of that show. And we will, Kevin's doing that walk. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a scroller going through the bottom of the screen for something called the Lily Foundation, which Kev's going to tell us all about. If you go onto Twitter and find his Kevin Day on there is a link to his Just Giving page. So feel free to jump on there. You can donate either a tenner or 20 quid, depending on your own personal situation. But they're coming on the show to talk primarily about the Price of Football podcast and the success of it. I think it is the best football finance podcast out there. And if you've never listened to it, give them a listen. But better still, join us. That'll be me, Ian Noble, Kevin, and Kieran live on 8 o'clock on Sunday night. And I say we are going to do this live. Normally with something like that, we would pre-record it to edit it, but we're doing it live, uncut, with all Ian's usual mistakes, okay, edit, warts and all. And it's going to be outstanding. I promise you. Please join us because.
Well, I think Nick, given you got Kieran's name wrong there, maybe I should do the introductions on.
And get him off the screen now. Those of you out in the chat, Paul Holden, I know it's right up your street. John Ellicott is up your street. Andrew Adams definitely up your street. Okay, get your questions in. Okay, get your questions in either live on the show, and we'll ask them as they're going through on the show, or if you want to send them to me or Ian pre-show, if you've got something really about football finance or about the Palace Brighton rivalry, because we're going to keep it friendly and professional, of course, because we're going to be. And most importantly, I want you to be respectful to our guests. No Brighton jibes, no serious Brighton jibes, because they will not be given airtime. But let's enjoy that. I hope you go. I'm actually genuinely excited about the prospects of them coming on the show. And Ian, thank you for your support as always. Boys, have I missed anything? Is there anything else? The next show after that will be post the Leicester game, and I think I'll be in the share again for that. Have I missed anything? Anything I've forgotten?
I don't think so. No, it's we look forward to the international break, of course. Look forward to watching the Palace players representing their country. So 3 Lions, 3 Eagles in the 3 Lions. Paul and I will be at Wembley on the 10th for the Finland game. So we'll look forward to that. Hopefully, Gahey and Eze will be in the starting lineup. I don't think Henderson will, but never know. After the way Pickford's been performing this season, you never know, do you? You know, so hey ho. Be good fun. I do like an international break when there's Palace players involved. It wasn't much fun when, to sit back and not see any Palace players involved at all, but it's good that they're involved. I'm not sure what's happening to the Colombian boys. Are they away with Colombia or anything like that? I'm not sure. Does anyone know?
They're away because he's broken his toenail, hasn't he?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And of course, the other thing about Matt Turner is that he is the USA #1 at the moment, isn't he? I think that's what Gavin told me. I think he is anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's certainly a US international.
Okay, well, so I think we'll wrap it up there, ladies and gentlemen. Please do feel free to join us, even though there's no football this weekend. Live and exclusive here on the Red and Blue Review for the Price of Football podcast team joining us. Ian, Paul and Tim, thank you as always. Nigel Croucher, we can't do it without you. And also to Tom Clark Samuel for all your work you do on Instagram. On behalf of myself, Nick Philpott and his wonderful team, the talented guys, I wish you a safe week and we'll see you next Sunday. Good night, everybody.
Good night all.
Cheers.